We are also getting some news late today that key Trump aides will have to testify to a grand jury in another different investigation into the former president. This one about his role in the January 6th insurrection. So you are looking at one of Mr. Trump's attorneys walking out of a courthouse in D.C. today after this ruling went against them. The focus here is really on former Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, who it turns out is going to have to comply with a federal subpoena, which means he will have to answer questions about January 6th and what he saw and the conversations he had while he was Mr. Trump's chief of staff that day. The judge here basically said, nope, Mark Meadows, you are not covered by executive privilege in this instance. That is why Meadows has to speak. Ryan Nobles is joining us now. An appeal is all but certain here, right? I mean, that is the expectation on this front. But we can read some tea leaves by the fact that this decision came down from this judge at all.
Yeah, that's right. And the most obvious one being, Hallie, that this is a criminal investigation into the former president. And thereby, if it is a criminal investigation, executive privilege does not matter. And the big difference here between where we've seen Mark Meadows subpoenaed before and where he was able to beat back a subpoena because of executive privileges is, of course, the January 6th investigation, where the committee, the January 6th Select Committee, had tried to compel him to come forward, but the Justice Department chose not to prosecute him for criminal contempt of Congress because of that executive privilege protection. This is a lot different because this is a criminal investigation. That is the one area where executive privilege can be lifted, and there's precedent for this in the past. The Justice Department was able to pierce through executive privilege when it came to Richard Nixon and, of course, the acquisition of those Oval Office tapes during the Watergate investigation. So this is a significant development. It's obviously going to make the job of the special counsel a lot easier to have these important players in front of him.
Talk about the other key players, too, as you alluded to. It is not just Mark Meadows. There are people who may be familiar, I think maybe to Dan Scavino, who ran Donald Trump's social media. I mean, that was a significant part of the equation. You're seeing some of the other names and faces here, too.
Yeah, that's right. Stephen Miller, of course, one of his high-profile aides, John Ratcliffe, who was the director of national intelligence at that time and did express some reservations about President Trump's conduct in the days after January 6th. You also have Ken Cuccinelli, who served in a high-profile role in the Department of Homeland Security. These are all key players involved in this. Many of them, we should also point out, have already given transcribed interviews with the January 6th Select Committee, but not all of them, and not all of them because of that executive privilege protection. So this certainly takes the investigation by the Justice Department to another level.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.